things all, firstly, let me introduce myself. This is Gökhan from UN Global Compact Network Turkey. I work as a climate and environment expert, and I will be co-moderating the sessions along with our French colleagues. So, to make long story short, we would like to create a digital momentum through our webinar series towards the UNOC 3, which is short version of UN Oceans Conference, which will be holding in June in France. Next slide, please, Corentin. And here's a quick overview of today's agenda. We will start with the Monaco Oceanographic Institute on the future of Mediterranean partnership, followed by an intro to business plastic initiative from Turkey. Then Yıldız Holding will share their experience regarding the plastic pollutions, and then ACA Airport will then speak on carbon pollution. At the end, we'll wrap up with the breakout discussions and closing the sessions where we'll be guided with Corentin and Camille. And we also prepared beforehand some guiding questions to facilitate the discussions in breakout rooms. We also be sharing with it with you. Next slide, please. Here is the closer look of respectful speakers. We have 4 speakers from 3 different institutes. Firstly, from Turkey, Yıldız Holding, Leçin Haktaner, who works as a senior HSS manager, along with Çağıl Köksal, sustainability and senior manager. And we have Giuseppe Di Carlo from Monaco Oceanographic Institute, and lastly, Florent Dupries, working as climate and CSR manager at the ACA. And next slide, please. Well, I will try to share some facts to give a general lookout why we highlight second sessions under the theme of pollutions. UNOC 3 a couple of months ago shared a zero draft that will give a glimpse of what will be the declarations at the end of the conference. So when we look at it, we can see it highlights the pollution as a cross-cutting threat, emphasizing the need to address its all dimensions, protect oceans and ecosystems. Which refer to that, we frame today's sessions around these subjects, from plastic pollutions to carbon emissions. So when we take a closer look at the figures of the pollution in maths, we would realize how severe is the situation in the region to harm both ecosystems and the human health. So urgent and ambition actions is what we need the most across the region. Well, that's because every day 730 tons of plastic enter the Met, with single use of plastic making up over the 60 of marine litters. On the other hand, microplastic levels reaching 64 million particles per square kilometer, while air pollution for PM2.5 pollutant exceeds 100 microgram in some regions, along with the regional average, is also way above the safe threshold, which is advised by the WHO. So that's causing premature deaths. So we need to combat the pollution as a with a holistic approach. And in that point, question of how pops up in our minds. And hopefully now we have a chance to satisfy our curiosity to find an answers these questions with inputs from today's presentations, starting with Giuseppe from Monaco Oceanographic Institute. If you are ready, Giuseppe, you may put our curiosity to a little bit rest. And when you're ready, you're welcome to start your presentation.
Thank you. A very good morning and afternoon to all of you. Thank you for having me. And my colleague Mia. I'm Giuseppe Di Carlo. I'm a marine biologist. I've worked in ocean and marine conservation in the Mediterranean and globally for the past sort of 15 plus year. And I'm now sort of consulting with the Monaco Oceanographic Institute. I would be happy to share a few slides. I do want to be mindful of time because I know we are guests on your call, which we are grateful for the invitation. But if you'll be helpful, I'm happy to perhaps share my screen and share a few slides with you about our project. Let me just open it. Are you able to see this? Yes. Okay. Thank you. So I'll be brief and please feel free to chase me for time. Again, I want to be mindful. We are proposing or about to launch an initiative that we call Mediterranean Visioning. The idea of the visioning came from probably two or three different angles. One, since you mentioned it, is the upcoming UN Ocean Conference in Nice, which we are fairly well tuned in, as you know, be organized on Mediterranean coastline. So we felt it would be important that perhaps we use the opportunity to think about the future of the Mediterranean. A second one is the fact that there is an ongoing global visioning exercise which is conducted through a collaboration of a number of different organizations with the idea to think collectively about the future of the ocean. And the third is sort of the realization that we're obviously in a fairly difficult moment globally, but the Mediterranean included, both from a conservation, ecological sort of crisis, a climate. Of course, I think everybody's fairly aware about the impacts of climate change to the Mediterranean, but also there is a large uncertainties on the future and what we might be able to achieve towards a more sustainable future in a complex geopolitical context. So we have been promoting this project as a Mediterranean vision with the scope to begin to work together with a number of stakeholders within civil society and private sector to imagine desirable futures for the Mediterranean. That means in the context that we already are in, with the trends that we know the Mediterranean maritime activities or sectors are projected to have. And with the intention to try to drive the Mediterranean towards a better future, how can we work together to sort of with a sort of fairly solid tested methodology to develop a set of desirable futures for the Mediterranean? Um, I skipped this a little bit. I don't want to. I think uh, getting too much into the state of the Mediterranean. There's plenty of information out there. So we wanted to design a participatory visioning exercise, which again, it's a methodology that is based on the IPBES, which you might be familiar with, developed by the Stockholm Resilience Center and which has already been applied in the ocean context, particularly for the ICs. And this is about future thinking approaches that can help us build participatory governance, but also try to improve decision making and have civil society and private sector join forces for a desirable, achievable future that is hopefully more sustainable than not. Like I said, the methodology is based on a nature futures framework developed by the IPBES. It does include or consider three main ways to value nature. Nature for nature, so intrinsic value, which is often sort of the ecological approach. Nature for society, so the ecosystem services that benefit society on the planet, and nature as culture, so a relational value as well. I could reference the fact that the Blue Plan, which is an agency of UNEMAP, a part of the Barcelona Convention, has developed a Med 2050 report, which has already done some foresighting on the Mediterranean. So there we have a number of projections of possible trends that we might be able to incorporate in the work that we do. But we like to go beyond this report and be more comprehensive in the approach, but also use the approach again to bring private sector and civil society together. We're happy to share the link to this report with you all. Very briefly, there will be 3 or 4 main moments on the project. One moment after the launch will be to start framing the Mediterranean as it is today, and the Mediterranean as we might understand it developing over the next 20, 30 years. That would help us frame a survey that will be sent to a number of experts and non-experts within civil society, academia, and the private sector. And that's where we would really benefit from your advice and collaboration, with the idea to start identifying ways that we can develop desirable futures. Those ways are called seeds. And so those seeds are used as potential approaches, potential strategies, potential ideas within a technological approach, within a geopolitical approach, within an ecological approach, within a social approach, to be able to help us again understand imagine what the future could look like, and also then take action to work towards that future. Then we're planning to do a workshop likely after summer. So we might have a moment at UNOC 3 to present some of the outcomes of the survey. There is a dedicated Mediterranean Day on June 10 within the UNOC program. So we're hoping that we will use that opportunity to be able to engage with participants of the conference on this initiative, and also start sharing some of the things that might have emerged, and then bring that to a workshop most likely after summer, again with the selected experts across the different ecosystems, including the private sector, to then start thinking what would be the seeds, what would be the initiatives that might drive the Mediterranean towards a better future, and how may we collectively work together to put them in place. There's a bit of a timeline, which I more or less just described, but we're aiming to sort of finish this project by the end of December. At the end of December, there is the meeting of the contracting parties to the Barcelona Convention, which will be held in Egypt. And so we're hoping to be able to bring the outcomes of this project to that meeting, so that then we can bring in probably the fourth ecosystem, which is decision makers and institutions through the regional convention, and being able to sort of bring their perspective as well within this work. 3 expected outcomes, and I will finish. One is we're hoping that this will bring a renewed engagement of civil society on the future of the Mediterranean. We don't, want to misspeak, but we perceive that we could benefit the civil society to have again a shared vision of the Mediterranean that we want, and how we might take action to get there, which might inform again, for example, policy actions or even on the ground projects. Second is a policy document that we might be able to use in the context of the Barcelona Convention. Barcelona Convention also has a commission for sustainable development. So we might look at how we integrate this work into existing bodies, being able to inform new and existing strategies on sustainable development in the Mediterranean. And then third, and this is a bit more internal, but I think it's still important, how can we take action? How can we develop joint initiatives or joint projects to be able to implement some of the approaches or some of the strategies that might have emerged? So we're in the very beginning of this project. That's why we wanted to come to you, hear ideas, hear feedback, how we might bridge that civil society, academia, and private sector, so that we can make the necessary integrations as we move along. We have the intention to put the survey out over the next 2 to 3 weeks. So this is a time where we are speaking with a number of partners and number of organizations to hear their views, their concerns, their feedback, so that we can be integrating all of that in the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Giuseppe, and much appreciated for your time management as well. Corentin, may I ask you to put presentation on the screen once again to move on with the introduction of Business Plastic Initiative from Turkey. I will very briefly explain what is the concept, then leave the floor for the speakers from Yıldız Holding to share their journey with this platform. Meanwhile, I can talk about slowly. BPI, I will shortly call it BPI, was launched in 2019 by three business NGO, UNGC Turkey Network, TÜSİAD, and BCSD Turkey branch. The main goal is to accelerate plastic pollution and create measurable impact, actually. Within this project, within these 3 years, a lot of activities and steps are taken. For instance, a 3-year roadmap was developed, and companies received technical supports from webinars and trainings to one-to-one meetings, along with a plastic guide that was released support participating companies to analyze their plastic footprint and how to set target within this initiative. And as a complementary tool, which is an essential part of this project that makes it to measurement the impacts of our targets to see our progress, a digital tool was delivered. And also we advocacy with public authorities to improve the policy realm. At the end, BPI gained global visibility at 2021 Virtual Summit of UNGC. Perhaps you may aware of that. And here are the first slides which I was describing. And at the end, we made a significant plastic pollution as a whole initiative within the 3 years. Next slide, please. And by the end of the 2023, 43 signatory companies from Turkey committed around 40,000 plastic reduction in their operations. And impressively, at the end, the total reduction reached around 76,000 plastic, which we witnessed an overachievement. And while wrapping up what's was going on with the BPI, I'd like to highlight 2 key aspects that make BPI stand out. First, participating companies set annual plastic reduction targets, and which is important, then transparently reported their each year through the digital platform. And at the end, second one is all we know, all we are aware of that no single actor can solve the plastic pollution alone. So which makes the collaborations of 3 major business NGO and their joint work with the companies especially valuable. Right now, the initiative is in the preparation phase for the second term to move on their work after 2026. We will decide to how to set next targets and how to move on. And so far, so on, Yıldız Holding was one of the successful participants this initiatives. And I will leave the stage for them to share their experience with BPI. Thank you for your listening.
Hello, everyone. Laçin, would you share the presentation? Okay, maybe you should change. Yeah, great, thank you. Hello again. This is Çağıl. I'm Senior Sustainability Manager at Yıldız Holding. Together today with Laçin, we will be sharing with you our efforts, particularly focusing on plastic reduction in Yıldız Holding. So we are really excited to tell the Yıldız Holding story to this group. And I personally believe that these sessions are inspiring and helping to find the new ways to do our business and our jobs better. Thank you for inviting us again. So Yıldız Holding, maybe you haven't heard before Yıldız Holding, but I'm pretty sure you heard the brands that you will see on the next slide. So before we move to the next slide, So let me tell you about the Yıldız Holding. It's the largest holding in Turkey. Our journey started 80 years ago in Istanbul, producing biscuits. And today we have an organization with over 300 brands, reaching 4 billion people globally across the 5 continents. We have 45 factories in total, 20 of which are located outside Turkey. So we produce products from biscuits to chocolates, frozen foods to packaging. So next slide, please. So maybe you know the Godiva, the Pladis, McVitie's. These are our some of the brands. Yıldız Holding operates in 3 main areas: food, retail, and investment. Food production remains one of our largest focus areas. We also contribute to the Turkish economy, our retail operations. Ülker is one of our main brands since 1944, operates both in Turkey and internationally. So almost a decade ago, we launched Pladis, bringing together Ülker, Godiva, United Biscuits, and Demet under one roof. Today, Pladis is the 2nd largest biscuit company in the world and ranks 7th in chocolate. So we talk about. So these are our business portfolio. We are mainly in retail and food. We are also investments in some other sectors. These are our sectors. As you see, it's more than 16 companies we have under Yıldız Holding. And so, as you imagine, the packaging is our challenge. Let me talk about our sustainability a little bit. Next slide, please. So the sustainability is our core of our business. Our motto is the world is ours, and we aim to create a long-term sustainable value for our stakeholders. Our sustainable strategy is around 3 pillars, actually. One is nature, the working for the future of nature. The second one is the empowering our stakeholders internally and externally. The third one is about the innovation, inspiring the future with purpose-driven products and business models. So we set our priorities under these 3 pillars with the materiality analysis we have done 2 years ago, and we manage and monitor our sustainability progress in these areas. Next slide, please. So we have 5 main targets under this strategy. One is net zero by 2050. The other one is the plastic. What we are talking about today is to making our plastic packaging recyclable, reusable, compostable by 2030. Doubling our innovation investments. The other is the empowering our supply chain to ensuring that our strategic suppliers fully comply with responsible sourcing policy. And the last but not least, the gender equality is very important to us, increasing gender diversity and representation of women in senior management, and also adopting the principle of equal pay for equal work. I'm happy to say that we are equal pay certified by Equal Pay Foundation last year. So, as I told you that we operate in the food and retail sector, as you imagine, plastic reduction is one of our top priorities. So, 5 years ago, as Gökhan mentioned, the BPI established with collaboration of Global Compact Turkey, Business Council for Sustainable Development Turkey, and TÜSİAD. And Yıldız Holding, we are a member of Global Compact since 2019, and we also joined this initiative and committed to reduce 1,000 plastic by 2023. To achieve this goal, we created a group of people where we share practices and innovation solutions among our companies, and we call this a plastic working group, as you see on the right side of the screen. We analyzed the current situation to increase the plastic recycle rates, work to ensure that our packaging is recyclable, reusable, or compostable, and moved away from the single-use plastic, switched from PVC to recycled PET and other materials. So, as I mentioned, this effort is led by Yıldız Holding. Laçin and I led this initiative with our colleagues. And as you see the companies on the screen, we call this plastic working group. We regularly hold meetings with them, the managers from quality purchasing, environmental departments to evaluate the progress. And this meeting review our plastic reduction goals and share good practices among companies. So one of our key outcome of this group is the plastic guide we delivered. With this guide, we set the. Can you move to the next slide, Laçin? Thank you. Set the criteria to guide plastic use for our group companies, and it's based on the golden design rules set by the Consumer Goods Forum, actually. So, we guided our companies how to apply the 9 rules, as you see on the right side. So I will hand over to Laçin, who will share about the results of our efforts and the challenges we faced. Thank you.
Laçin, you're unmute your mic, please.
Oh, thank you. Sorry. Thank you again, Çağıl. My name is Laçin. I am working in Yıldız Holding like senior team manager for around 4 years. Today, I will continue to explain our outcomes and challenges on plastics. First of all, I will start with our outcomes. A significant achievement was the reduction of 2,000 and 2,050 tons of plastic by the end of 2023, demonstrating a strong commitment to sustainability and environmental responsibility. The recyclable plastic ratio in the snack group increased to 97%. This was mainly achieved by transitioning from composite film structure to monofilm structures, which enhances recyclability. The production processes witnessed a reduction in microns for both bottom foils and vacuum bags. This not only reduction material usage, but also minimize waste. Transitioning from PVC to PET for bottom foils is a positive change, given PET's better environmental profile and recyclability. The switch from PE to PP in MEP trays indicates a strategic move towards more sustainable materials. The reduction of PP in IML, in mold labeling, cups highlights an innovative approach to minimize plastic usage in production labeling. While we have made significant progress, challenges often accompany ambitious sustainability goals. Yeah. Now I would like to share the most critical challenge we experience from technological and regulatory perspectives as we achieve the commitments we have made with the plastic working group we have established. I will start by explaining the regulatory challenge. The use of chemically recycled PCR, I mean post-consumer recycle, or bio-based plastics in direct contact with food is still not permitted in Turkey due to Food Codex regulations. Since we primarily operate in the food and retail sectors, we must comply with the Food Codex, which means we cannot use recycled content in packaging that comes into contact with food. Additionally, PIR, I mean post-industrial cycle, and PCR are not utilized due to the challenge in surging mechanically recycled materials and the unsuitability of these materials for food contact. Although chemically recycled PIR and PCR are appropriate for food contact, they cannot be supplied due to the both low availability and high costs. Aside from the challenge in surging, there are also difficulties concerning the traceability of PIR and PCR, which prevents us from obtaining reliable and accurate data for recycled plastics. To overcome this challenge, the Turkish Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry, through its packaging food enterprises and Codex departments, should approve the use of chemically recycled PCR or bio-based plastics, which are permitted for use in food contact in Europe and America. For a technological perspective, one of the primary challenges we face is the difficulties in the interaction of packaging machines and packaging characteristics with suitable materials. For example, adjusting alternative materials to work effectively in PVC thermoforming machines, converting composite structures into monomaterials as well. We are closely monitoring technological advancement and innovations to overcome machine functionality issues and challenges related to oxygen and moisture barrier properties. For instance, achieving visibility inside the packaging for meat and processed meat products while also obtaining the necessary oxygen barrier for the meats. Recognizing the regulation and technological challenge is so important as we navigate the path towards sustainability. The effort of our plastic working group continue to focus on finding solutions and fostering collaborations that can help address these obstacles. By advocating for regulatory change and staying attuned to technological innovations, we aim to create a sustainability future for our packaging solution. Thank you for your interest.
Thank you for your presence and contribution through your presentations. Right now, we have 10 minutes until the next presentations. If there is any questions, we can receive right now for the first two speakers' presentations. Is there any questions? Anyone like to step up in the room?
Gökhan, I think there are questions in the chat. We have a question from Laetitia. She was asking what MAP meant and also the meaning of IML. Maybe if you can expand on that.
The IML is the, would you move to the BIP slide?
Just 1 second.
That's one. You see the yellow cup? Yeah. Diğeri. Kaselerin olduğu yer.
Geride mi kaldı?
You see the yellow cup. Is this the IML cup? Actually, we are putting the margarine to these cups. This is the technical, and the map tray is the one you see. The sausage is over there. The box we put the sausage is the map tray. Actually, I hope it helps. I can see the questions on the chat box, but let me. Okay.
Map tray.
Episode. Okay.
If you are done, there's other question in the chat from Nurdan in New York regarding the recycling and consuming water and energy during using recycling material. The full question is, recycling is not always a good idea. Did you compare your production, which are used recycling material for consuming water and energy?
Sorry, I'm reading the question again, Gökhan.
Okay,
I
have
also
your
thought
moment. We still have time.
Not always a good idea. Did you?
If you want, sorry, I disturbed you. I can explain my question.
Yes, please.
Yes, I just wondered, someone unfortunately doesn't interested in like consuming the water and energy after using the recycled material. This is so important. But for example, if you want to go to any area, not only for your department, for the clothes, for every area, before you buy some things, especially for clothes, you should focus on you shouldn't choose the recycled material using any clothes area. For example, some of a famous brand they search a lot of topics about this situation, and then they compared. For example, if you want to use the recycled material, you can consume the more water and energy. This is not the eco-friendly situation, you know. But if you want to use like a new material, like eco-friendly, like a compostable material, the other without plastic, and this is like a real eco-friendly situation. I just wonder, did you compare after you're producing this product when you use the recycled material? How many and how much did you consume the water and the energy? Did you compare?
We didn't actually measure how the water consumption, the energy consumption, but while we are using the plastics, we are measuring totally actually in our facilities. And about your eco-friendly products, let me explain again. According to Food Codex in Turkey, you cannot use recyclable or compostable materials in food products. So you can use the materials which can be recyclable. Okay, that's the issue. As Laçin mentioned, it's a regulatory issue we are facing in food industry in Turkey. But as you see, as you know, that there's examples in Europe, compostable or eco-friendly, which are using in food sectors.
Okay, I understood. Only you just wanted to focus the producing material is recyclable, but you don't need to use the recyclable and compostable material like eco-friendly situation. Okay.
We are not allowed to use that.
Okay.
Because of the regulatory.
Okay, thank you.
That's why we committed to increase our recyclable ratio from X to Y. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for the pointing out this aspects of the project. We are right now in the process of working on for the second phase. We may take it into considerations, and as well as at the beginning of the presentation, that's why we like to emphasize that that's not for a one-party job. Regulatory issues always is part of the problem, that we should also work on a holistic approach. Is there anything else in the chat or room? If not, we can move on with our next speakers. Florent.
Yeah, actually,
I think Letitia has one more question about IML cups.
Okay.
The IML is actually injection molded plastic cups. Okay.
I can write the chat as well.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Florent, I'm afraid I won't be brave enough to try to pronounce your institutions. Maybe you can start with that, and the stage is yours.
Sure. Hello, everyone. Well, I'm Florent, and I'm the CSR and climate manager for Nice Airport. So we talked about Nice at the beginning, well, several times during this presentation, because we're lucky to host the next UNOC. And thank you very much, everyone, for letting me give you a bit of a teaser on how Nice decarbonize, and the airport will be obviously the gateway to all the lucky ones that will be able to attend the UNOC. So I'm just gonna share a little presentation on how the airport decarbonize. 1 second. There, I think. Can you see the presentation?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, great. So that's the lovely view of the airport. So the main link today of with the Med is that we're an airport on the Mediterranean. It's been well, mostly human built. So hopefully, well, obviously for us, climate change is a big topic because we have to decarbonize, and any change in temperature will affect our operations, because in terms of adaptation to how the sea will rise, or any impact that it can have on the Med will be critical for us. So we take very seriously decarbonization. Sorry. So today I wanted to talk to you about how an airport can actually decarbonize, and mainly I'm gonna focus on what an airport can do and not airplanes, which is different. We have that's a duty to welcome airplanes, but we are responsible for the facilities. So that might be clearer. So this is a map of what kind of emission an airport can have. So you can see, if you're hopefully familiar with the scope. So in terms of scope 1, an airport can have all the vehicles and equipment on the ground. For example, the fire vehicles that will go and do an exercise if an aircraft has an issue. If the airport is doing its waste management on site, same for the water. We have power generator, obviously. So if, for example, there's a power cut and we have a duty for operation, so the aircraft needs to land, we have to be able to have electricity, so that we have generator, which is a big source of emission. We have boilers, obviously, to heat. Well, we can have, airports can have, we don't, so you'll see later on. We have a lot of AC units. So these ACs have gas in them that have very high GWP, which means it can generate CO2 emissions. The scope 2 for an airport is mainly electricity. So whether well, it's usually purchase one, so for heating, cooling, and lighting. And in scope 3, you've got obviously the biggest part. Our scope 3 include the airplanes emission. We have all our third parties, but we also have one of the big sources, how passengers arrive to an airport. So whether you come by car, public transport, etc., we have to put that in our scope 3. So, and stop me if you have any question on that. Oh, sorry, I think it just disappeared. So if you have any question, just let me know. I can't actually see you, so just speak in the microphone. So this is how we measure our emissions in an airport. And then actually in the world of airport, we have a program that actually give us guidelines to how we should measure and action in terms of decarbonization. So it's called the Airport Carbon Accreditation Program. It's run by ACI, and ACI is the biggest organizations like our UN, but for airlines and airports. And it's based on the GHG protocol and the ISO 14064. So all the methods are validated, and it gives us direction into how we should actually work, because it's a very specific, as per for example, the plastic restriction that you mentioned in Turkey, where you are not allowed to do things. It's the same for us. Airlines and aircrafts are run. The first priority is safety and security, and sometimes this drives us, and we can't do everything we want in a way. So today that program actually covers 4.7 billion passengers a year, which correspond to more than half of the worldwide traffic in 95 countries. So you can see on the right on the map, it's mainly in Europe, America, and some in Africa and Asia. And how it works is that after measuring the CO2 emission, we enter into a level of accreditation, and this kind of pushes you to get better. So it goes. They have 5 levels in the program. So level 5 is just to acknowledge that you have to. To register your carbon footprint. The second one is to try and reduce it. The third is to engage clearer actions. The fourth is to involve partners with us. So, for example, in the scope 3, and have a proper management plan to reach net zero. 4+ is you also have to be neutral, so you have to compensate your residual emissions. And the level 5, which has just arrived about a year ago, is to actually have also the net zero trajectory for scope 3, so including aircrafts, etc. And right now, the 3 airports of the Côte d'Azur, because today I'm talking about Nice, but we're also representing Saint-Tropez and Cannes, but it's mainly general aviation, so private. We are all level 4+, which is almost the best one. Do you have any question right now? Can I carry on with the rest? Okay, so how Nice exactly do to decarbonize in terms of scope 1 and 2? We have a commitment, which is to be net zero scope 1 and 2 by 2030 without compensation. So we, I'm going to talk about it already for the rest. So this is our trajectory. So we started registering our emissions following the airport carbon accreditation in 2010, and it was in the thousands of tons, I'd say. And then we put measures in place to reduce our emissions. So right now we already in 2024 more than around 95% reduction compared to 2010. What has helped, as you can see, in 2015, the biggest action that we've put in place was to buy only renewable energy provided by the national provider, EDF, and we have a power purchase agreement, which the main renewable energy used by EDF is hydroelectric. And then carrying on in 2020, 80% of our service vehicles were electrified. Another big source of emission is gas, obviously, so gas boilers. So now from early 2024, we removed all gas boilers from our platform, so it has reduced a lot of our emissions. We also have hybrid to electric cars, depending on what can be done. So all of that by 2023, we're already down 95% of our emissions compared to the baseline. And this year, the big action that we've done in Nice was to transition to a biofuel to run our engines and equipments airside. And coming will be electric company cars, so 100% of electric company cars, and to try and reduce the amount of generators. As I said earlier, generators are here for safety, so we can't reduce them. So we're trying to see how we can reduce their impact. And so that would be working with the government to reduce the amount of exercise we have to do to test the groups, and also to transition to generators that are compatible with biofuels, such as HVO 100. And in 2030, you can see that it's minus 100% because with the local region around Nice, so for the ones that will have the chance to visit it during UNOC, we have had a three-way partnership between the local so some of the local communities, the National Forest Association, and us to plant trees where there's been fires, etc. So we help them plant forests, and that means that in a 50 kilometers radius around the airport, we have tree plantation, and this will help us to absorb our emissions. So we will have carbon credits to compensate, but it's not really a compensation, but it's offsetting. So as I said earlier, we are looking in terms of scope 1 and 2 at the airport, and scope 3 in an airport is obviously highly driven by the airplane. So the half cruise, which is in an airport, it takes into account so the flight going out of the airport, and the airport on the other side of the destination will take the other half. And then the LTO, which is landing and takeoff when you're about to approach the airport, so correspond to 13% of the emission. And the APU is when the plane is parked. We're trying to reduce it by ways that we're going to cover in a second, but it has to keep an engine running, and it's 3%. So in terms of scope 3 that are not related to aircrafts, it's only 6% of it. And you can see on the table on the right, the main driver is the access to the airport by passengers. And then you have also the fuel consumption, the third-party commute, and the commute by our employees that we measure. So for that, we put in place in order to reduce soft mobility, so green mobility, for example, encouraging we have 500 employees, but the whole airport is about 6,000 with all the partners, and we encourage them to use either public transport or cycling, etc. And we give them a compensation if they use that kind of transport. For example, the PAX access is the same. We work with the metropolis to have public transport linked to the airport. We have had the train station inaugurated a year ago that is now closer to the airport, and it's called the Nice Airport train station to have also a good mix between the train and the plane. And that's about it for that. And then I wanted to talk about some of our recent actions so that it's more tangible of what we have done and the big reduction. So as I said earlier, in 2010, the CO2 equivalent emission related to gas boilers was about 34% of all our emissions. And now it's actually zero just by replacing the gas boilers. in all the terminals. So each building is different, and we have to adapt because, for example, we have had the luck to have, I think some of you have visited the Aliotis, which is the wastewater plant that is in Nice and is very close to the airport. And we managed to connect the wastewater energy related to the treatment to the Terminal 1 at the airport, which means that we removed all the gas boilers, and the energy created by the treatment is used in the airport to cool and to heat the airport. So it's purely electric, and it's actually an energy that would have been lost otherwise. So we, as I said, every building is different. We can do it for Terminal 1 because it's very close to the station, the wastewater station, but Terminal 2 is too far, and it would not be worth doing it. For this kind of building, what we do is geothermia. So we use the energy from the ground to get the heat and cold. And when we can't, then we use the CVC, so heat pumps, for example. Then, as I said earlier, in 2024, after the gas was gone, the next the biggest source of emission was the fuel consumption. So we use it, said, for example, it could be in scope 3, it could be the bus that takes you from your gate to an aircraft if it's not attached to the airport. It could be all sorts of vehicles, and most of them run with diesel. And I'd say it's the biofuel is not the solution, but it's a good short-term solution when sometimes electric options are not possible, whether it be for safety or for also investment. It's more of a long-term. So biofuel are a good alternative in terms of short-term. And we, with our 3 airports, we are lucky enough to be able to test on smaller airports. For example, Cannes Saint-Tropez have tried that biofuel, which is HVO 100, which means that at the combustion, the emission factor is 0. And our emission factor, we base them on the French local administrative. So it's called ADEME, and they give us all the emission factors. And having tested positively with Cannes Saint-Tropez, now Nice is currently running a test phase since I'd say a month now, and obviously again with safety and security reason, we have to try on each vehicles to make sure it works, so that then we can deploy it 100%, because we can't allow for operations to stop. So if an aircraft, as you probably know, if you use planes, often sometimes we're delayed, so it's frustrating, and what we want is to give a great quality of service. So everything is literally timed by a second, so we can't allow anything to go wrong. So that's why this kind of measures look easy to just replace diesel by HVO, for example, but it has to be analyzed thoroughly and tested and then deployed. And then also we talked about APU. So this is not a scope 1 nor scope 2, it's scope 3. But we also as an airport try and convince our partners to decarbonize. And as we've seen, aircraft is a big amount of emission. And what we do for, when you have aircraft that are not parked by the airport, they're parked a bit further, and usually when they're further, they have to use that auxiliary power unit, which is a little engine that it's not the big engines that you can see on the aircraft. It's a small engine at the back of the aircraft that burns kerosene, but it's used to keep the light. For example, if you take off by night, you have to have light in the aircraft. If it's very warm, you have to have or cold, you have to have either heating or cooling in the aircraft. And what we are doing with a European program called AFIF, which partly gives subvention to this kind of program, is to bring electricity to these parking stands that are far from the terminals, so that the aircraft can directly plug to like an electricity source, so that the APU doesn't need to be used, and it's actually electricity coming from the ground that is used. So we reduced, as we said, if I come back to my scope 3, here APU 3% is involved. So if we manage to electrify it all, it's 3% of the emissions that could be reduced, which is a lot for an airport. I said, like, this electrification is estimated to reduce emission by several thousand, so it's a lot. And right now we are deploying with that program 50 Hertz on 69 parking stands, which again, like, we have to do the works whilst the airport is still running. We can't shut the airport, so this is all the complexity of having to do this kind of project. So hopefully for the ones that will come to Nice, you'll see when you land all these little activities. And in terms of what's coming, the program, the airport carbon program that I described at the beginning, is now like a lot of industries focusing on scope 3, because we know that it's where most of the emission, at least for airports, are. So we are establishing our scope 3 full inventory following the GHG protocol. And we have the ambition to have a trajectory, hopefully at net zero by 2050. And then what is going to be the part of it is also to influence aviation-linked third parties. So, for example, as per the biofuel that I described for the airport, we're looking at biofuel for aircrafts, and as an airport, we have the duty to give them the facilities to be able to put the SAF in the aircrafts. We also want to encourage our airlines flying from and to Nice to commit and have the same level of engagement that we are taking, such as the SBTI, for example. We're also part of the innovation to green aviation, so looking at electric aviation. It might seem very futuristic, but it's actually in the pipes, and we're trying to boost that and have the facilities to land these kind of aircrafts. And as I said, in terms of scope 3, passenger access is very big in terms of emissions. So we're looking at working with the taxis to have electric taxis, emphasize the amount of electric stations, charging station. As I said earlier, the green mobility is a lot. Imagine every day thousands of people coming to work at the airport, and they have the choice to make a difference whether they come with a green mobility. And we're lucky enough, and you'll see that the airport is actually in the almost in the city center of Nice, and it can bring its challenges, because we're the second biggest airport in France. I mean, after the two Parisian airports, Nice is the next one in terms of quantity of passengers. And we can try and convince people to use public transport. And finally, obviously, in the scope 3, we need to reduce the GHG emission along the value chain. So we're looking at sustainable buying policy, because we know that we can look at the emissions on the platform, but also through what we buy, through the building side that we're doing, etc. So adding all that with, for example, the SPASR in France, which is the scheme to promote socially and environmentally responsible or sustainable buyings. So that's in a nutshell what we're doing. I hope I fitted into my 20 minutes, and I don't know if there's been questions or not. Okay, so I'm just joining you. I'm seeing all the questions.
Yeah, you are
Okay,
right on time, Joran. There's a couple of questions in the chat.
Okay, so I'm reading the question. So Laetitia, you're saying scope 1 and 2. How do you explain the raise in 22 and 23 in comparison to the previous year? So yes, it's so when I'm just taking the graphs. So in 2024, we haven't done many actions in terms of decarbonization, but the traffic raises. So we had more passengers, and one reason will be for example, if you don't do biofuels and you have big drops in CO2, it can raise slightly. And also, as I said earlier, refrigerant gas, for example, if you have a gas leak we don't have gas in terms of heating and cooling, but there's gas in AC units that can leak. And unfortunately, a leak that has a high GWP can generate an unforeseen CO2 emission that we can't really control. So we're working in having facilities that can be better tracked on that to avoid leaks, and also to try and change the gas that are in these CVC, as we call them. And this is part also of the European regulation that we have to reduce reduce gases that have lower GWP. So Brian, yeah, you were partly right. Thank you for the comment. What do LTO and APU stand for? APU is auxiliary power unit, yes, and LTO is landing and takeoff. Okay. Question. Use of biofuel was possible without any conversion equipment. Yes, so this HVO replaces diesel. So it can't be put in unleaded fuel. It's diesel, and you don't have, so what we have done, because as I said, we have a safety and security challenge. So what we have done in terms of the transition is ask all the manufacturers of all equipments and engine to give the approval. We talked to several airports. So for example, in United Kingdom, they're quite ahead, I'd say, in HVO. So we talked to other airports and see if they had challenges, etc. But if the manufacturer gives you the approval, you just have to replace diesel by HVO. So in terms of that that biofuel, yes, you can just replace it. And then Laurent Cazes, what is the ratio of your scope 3 compared to the scope 3, because it includes the aircraft in half cruise, is more than scope 1 and 2 is very tiny. It's less than 1%. If I give you a ratio, so scope 1 and 2 is very, very small. So we already reduced it by, now we're only on a few hundreds. If that answers your question.
All right. Thank you for all of the contributions and the questions. I guess we are a little bit late by 2 minutes to move on with breakout rooms. So I leave the floor for Corentin to organize breakout rooms. Would you like to get the behind of the wheel?
Yeah, thank you, Gökhan. She's gonna create the rooms now. We're gonna have 2 rooms to join. We wanted to have 1 room on solid waste pollution. So again, on plastic, but also metal, glass, etc. And so 1 over on liquid waste pollution, so water treatment, regarding chemicals and etc. So I'm just gonna create the rooms, and then everyone will be able to join the room they want and be able to share their experience, challenges, and solutions on this 2 topics on pollution. Thank you.
Okay, so Corentin just opened the 2 different rooms. You should have a pop-up window appearing on your screen, and you can select the room you'd like to join. So you have, as Corentin said, 1 on solid waste, the other one on liquid waste. please do select the room you want to join, and you'll get to share best practices, good practices with your peers in these rooms. The solid waste room is going to be run by Gökhan.
Do you have the pop-up? Do you see like the pop-up to join the rooms, or
I can see who
you
joins. Yeah,
saw? Okay.
yeah, it's appearing.
Because there is like one participant who couldn't. Okay.
Yeah. So far, there are 4 people in the room 1 on solid waste and 2 people on liquid waste. So there are 20 people, 19 people now that are still unaffected to any room.
Okay. Et tu peux
Okay, so Gökhan is in the room 1 on solid waste, and Corentin is waiting for you guys if you want to join the discussion on liquid waste in room 2. So feel free to join the room of your choice. Otherwise, I can unilaterally put you in a room of my own choice. So pick the one you prefer.
Hello, Camille. Can you hear me? Yeah, please help me to the first breakout room and see the pop-ups. Thank you.
So hi again, everybody. Yeah, hi again. Maybe Gökhan, if you can hear us right now.
I'm not sure if Gökhan is here, actually.
Yeah, maybe not. Okay. So yeah, we're gonna wrap up the session. Sorry, we had a bit of logistic problems today to do the breakout room session regarding sounds, etc. So the program was a little bit modified, but thank you for everybody for your patience and for your time and for participating. We will have next session in April on biodiversity, which is going to be led by a Spanish country network and Lebanese country network. So we hope to see you all there. And yeah, you can just, we have like a little survey thing if you want to put your comments and your ask. Yeah, as I said, the breakout rooms were supposed to be working a little bit better, so for the exchange. It was not really the case, but yeah, we hope next time on biodiversity discussion it will be the case. And yeah, again, thank you for your time, and yeah, see you in April.
Yes, and maybe if we can add a comment, what's been shared in the breakout room on solid waste, we will solidify some notes and sum it up for you all to read again and to share in the next sessions or discussions. So thank you all for this session today, and see you in April.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just-